Hey everyone, today I'm going to be teaching you how to make this cool spinning earth and knot animation, which you're seeing right here. It has some kind of particles and stuff going around it, and it looks kind of cool. It looks really cool, in my opinion. But I'm just going to be teaching you how to make this. And first thing I want to say is that this is actually going to be this exact render is going to be part of my Space Volume 2 set. And it'll be for sale for about $5 on ArtStation. You'll have about 10 images and animations that you can use, all related to space, and you can use them for whatever you want. I mean, once you've bought it, you don't have to give me credit for anything. I'll release a trailer for that soon. Some of the renders I made are pretty cool. I have about 4 so far. But without further ado, let's get into this tutorial. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to hop into a new project. Now, we're going to want to make sure that we are in Eevee, and we are going to leave these disabled for now because I don't exactly remember what I'm supposed to put on. But anyway, what we're going to do first, we're going to add the kind of knot that you saw surrounding the earth. The way we're going to do that is if we go to Edit and Preferences, once Preferences loads, we go to Add-ons. Right here, it should be about the 4th one down. If it's not, you can just search up extra objects. Usually add curve extra objects. Now, with that on, if we shift A and go to curve and go to knots, if we select braid knot, we can see we get this kind of braid, this kind of like knot thing going on. So I think it's kind of cool. And then if we just rotate this on the y-axis 90 degrees and scale it up, we see now that we have this we have this knot now, and that's the base mesh for the knot. Now if we go into rendered view right now, we can obviously see that it's pretty boring. Like, we don't have any textures on it, we don't have any glow, we don't have any of that cool stuff that we want. So how we're going to do that is we're going to first apply a new material, and that gives us a principled BSDF. And what I'm going to do is if I shift A, not caps lock A, and add a brick texture, and then bring the color into the color, we can see that now we have this brick texture on it. Which is cool and all, but you know, like, we want that kind of like glowy bricks. We don't want this like gray bricks. So here's how we're gonna do that. So if we take our brick texture and just bring it down a little bit, and we add an emission shader, and then change the color to a kind of like bright green, and then we come over here, bring our material output over a little bit, shift A and add a mix shader, and we plug these in, we can see that now we have this like mix. Let me make sure that alright, it doesn't matter. Now we have this mix. Now as you can see, obviously, it's not, I mean, it's like good, but we want it to only glow in like certain areas, and the way we're gonna do that is if we shift A and add a color ramp, and then we bring the color on the brick texture into the fact of the color ramp, and bring the color on the color ramp into the fact of the mix shader, we can see that now we have these separate bricks and stuff. And if we bring these over, we can choose which bricks we want to have green and which bricks that we want to have not green. So just adjust the color, the black and white, and you can adjust. You can see how many bricks you want. Now, what we're gonna do is we're going to adjust the size of this brick. Actually, what we're gonna do first, so I'm gonna give this kind of like a more greenish color on color 2. And basically what I'm going to want to do is I want to rotate this actually to where the brick texture is kind of like an actual brick. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scale it up kind of a lot. Then I might actually change this back down. Nah. So now we have this. It looks pretty cool. We have this kind of like brick stuff on it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create our Earth that's in the middle of this. And so the way we're going to do that is we're going to Shift A over in our 3D viewport and add a UV sphere. It should automatically be in the middle. If it's not, then just move it. But just shrink it down to about maybe there, maybe a little bit larger. It's about right there. That's a good size. It just depends on how big you want it. And then if we go into modifiers and add a subdivision surface and give it 2 subdivisions on both the view and render and apply it, and then we click shade smooth, we now have the smooth sphere, which we obviously want. We don't want a jagged Earth. That'd be pretty bad. So excuse me. But so now we're gonna give it the Earth texture. Now I already have these textures of Earth. I'm pretty sure I linked them in my glass planets tutorial. So if you want this texture, I'm not gonna link it in this video again. Just I could, but I'm probably not gonna link it in this video again. If you want the texture, there's gonna be a little card up that shows the other video, and you can just download the zip file. It comes with more planet textures, but Earth is in there, and all the Earth textures are in there that you're gonna need. So here's how we're gonna make our Earth. So if we have a principal VSTF, and we come up here to edit and go to preferences again, and we go and type in node, and we make sure we have node wrangler on. Make sure it's checked and save preferences if you don't have it checked. Then if we click on principal VSTF and we click Control T, we can see we get this image texture stuff. So it makes it a lot easier than just like grabbing each individual thing. So a few adjustments that I'm gonna make here is I'm gonna make it in generated instead of UV, and I'm gonna make it a sphere instead of a box. Then I'm just gonna open up where I have my Earth texture saved, and we can see that we now have this Earth texture. What if I? Yeah, that doesn't work. All right, so generated. All right. So now we have this. It looks like Earth. It doesn't really like have any weird things on it or anything. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn the roughness all the way up, so we just don't have any like shine on it. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give the actual Earth itself some detail. The way I'm gonna do that is with a bump map. I know, it's amazing. So I'm just gonna duplicate this original image texture by clicking on it and clicking Shift D and just bringing it down. I'm gonna change color into non-color data, and then I'm just gonna open my bump map. And now if we connect it to normal, we can see that nothing happens. In fact, it actually just almost breaks. But nothing happens. Like, you see we have like all this weird stuff on it. But nothing happens. That's because we're plugging in color into a normal, and we need a bump. So just search for bump, bring bump mode out, and put color into height and normal into normal. And we can see now that we have this really strange looking bump map. And the reason for that is because we originally mapped this, well, cheaply mapped this texture to the sphere, so it's all normal stuff, but we didn't map the bump map. What we're going to do that is just click generated and just bring it down into the vector, and now we have this bump map. Now as you can see, it's way too high, and we don't want it to be that high. So if we bring the strength down to maybe 0.2, maybe 0.3, somewhere around that. Yeah, I'd say 0.2 is about good. So now we have some more detail on it. You can see like right here and stuff. Just gives it that extra bit of detail that makes it look more realistic. So now what we're gonna do is if we go into wireframe mode and select the sphere, and then we Shift D, but don't move your mouse, click, and then click S, and just size it up just a little bit until it turns kind of white. And so now if we go in this sphere 001, if we give it a new material and go in a render view, we should see that our Earth is now covered up, and if we unhide it, then we should see Earth is under there. So that's good. It means that this is above our Earth, which is what we want. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give our Earth some clouds. What I'm going to do that is kind of the same way, but some different things because of transparency. So we just Control T and get our image texture and open up our clouds and generate it into vector and flat, turn it to sphere. Now what we're going to want to do, now we have our clouds texture, but obviously Earth isn't black. You know, as far as I can tell, Earth isn't black. I also turn the roughness all the way up on that too. Earth isn't black. As far as I know, Earth isn't black. So, the way we're going to make this transparent is if we Shift A over here in our shader editor and go into transparent BSDF. Make sure it's transparent, not translucent. I made that mistake before. Then we add a mix shader. Add a mix shader and then connect the BSDF to the shader, and we can see that it's still not transparent. Reason for that is Eevee has this thing where it has to be manually set. So if we over here in our shader editor, click N, and on blend mode, make sure it's on alpha blend, and now we have clouds on our Earth. So I want Earth to be a little bit tilted. So what I'm going to do that is I'm just going to click their sphere and click the other sphere too, and I'm just going to rotate it. I'm just going to rotate it. Alright, I'm going to rotate these both 45 degrees separately. That's a bit extreme. Yeah, like that. Basically like that. So now we have our Earth along with our not in our scene. So that's good. That's good. Also, what I'm going to do to give it a final touch, you don't necessarily have to do this, but I think it looks cool. So I'm just basically going to repeat the exact same thing and just scale this up a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it this kind of atmosphere look. The way I'm going to do that is if I have this selected and go into our rendered, and then Shift A and add a layer weight, and then I add a mix shader, then I add a transparent, and then I mix them together, and then turn the facing into FAC, and maybe 0.2. I think I'm doing this right. Do I have to split these? Yes, I do. Okay, so now we have this kind of, just gonna scale it down a little bit. Now we have this atmospheric kind of thing on it, but I don't want it to be white. I want it to be kind of blue. So I'm gonna give it this kind of blue tint on it. And there we go. That looks good. So now we can see that we have this cool looking Earth in our thingy, our scene. So now here's what we're going to do. We're going to actually make our scene now. So basically just position your camera to where it's on front, where it's like this, and just Control Alt 0. And now what we're going to do is, obviously our camera cannot capture this whole thing. So the way to fix that is go on our camera, and on our actual camera lens, just change the focal length until you get it to about here, and then just drag it down, and then I'm gonna actually make it a little bit more, and then just kind of drag it like this, and turn off overlays to see if it's kind of centered, and it's close enough, so that's good. Now what we're gonna do is, we can see that we don't have any kind of glow or anything on it, which I don't want. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna delete this light, and then I'm going to go into our world settings right here and change the color to black. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on ambient occlusion, I'm going to turn on bloom, subsurface scattering, screen space reflections, and that's pretty much it. So I'm going to turn bloom down a little bit to where it's like that. We can adjust it later if we want, but that's basically what I'm going to do with that. now I'm going to add a area light and then bring it forward, and I'm just going to shine it on the earth, and I'm going to bring the energy down a lot. So now we see we have this earth. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into our render settings, and down here in the color management, turn it on very high contrast. And now we see we have this look that we saw in the initial render. I'm actually going to turn bloom up a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. I'm actually going to change the emission strength down a little bit. Maybe the light setting needs to go down a tiny bit. Yeah, kind of like that. And then maybe a slightly darker green. Just fool with it a little bit, you know, kind of make it how you want it. Turn off overlays, we can see that we have this now. I'm actually going to turn bloom up a little bit more because I want that, you know, like effect that it has. Yeah, kind of like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the particle effects. So the way we're going to do that is we click on our knot here. Oh, I have overlays off. Click on our knot, make sure our knot's selected. Actually, what I'm going to do before that is deselect the knot. And I'm going to shift A and add a circle under curve. And bring it over here out of the camera's view, and I'm going to RY90 to where it's facing us, but not in the camera's view. And I'm going to scale it down a little bit, and going to tab and hit tab to go into edit mode. Control F. Oops. Control F. Oh, I think. Oh, I have to convert it to mesh. Go to object, convert to, and then mesh, and tab, and Control F, and then fill. So now we have this circle object, which we're going to use for our particles. And now we're just going to give it a quick emission shader. So just create a new shader, delete the principled, and just make a quick emission shader and put it into surface and just make it a bright green color. And so now if we go into render, we should see that we have this bright green circle over here, which is what we want. So now here's what we're going to do. We're going to go into our knot, and we're going to go into oh yeah, we got to convert this to a mesh. Object, convert to mesh, then object, convert to mesh. Oh, we can't do that there. Okay, so now we have this this braid as a mesh. And if we go down over here to particles, particle settings, down here, second to last, and we click new. If we click play right now, we can see that we have like this kind of snowfall effect. That's not what we want. So the way to fix that is if we go to field weights and turn gravity all the way off, we can still see that we have like this weird, doesn't look like natural, doesn't look like we want it to look. So if we go into our render, turn it on render as object, and then under object, instance object, and we click our Bezier circle and check object rotation. If we go into, if we look now, we can see that we have our, particles, and right there I just change the particle number to 500, maybe 650. And then frame start is 0 to make sure it starts early as it can. And we can see we have this nice flowing particles, and looks cool. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna scale this circle down a little bit so we don't have like a ton of things. Now if we go into render view, and wait for it to render a little bit. We can see that we have these particles now. So if we play it, you can see that we have these particles now, and I'm actually going to decrease the size more. To where it's like this. I'm actually going to decrease the number to maybe 450. Yeah, looks good. Overlays off. Looks good. So now we're gonna get into the animation of the actual spheres. So first, we're gonna animate our knot. So make sure overlays is on. So the way we're gonna animate our knot is make sure you are at frame 0, and click N to bring up this menu. And on rotation, find the one that just makes sure things spin like this. If we change it to 0, we should see that it's like this, which is what we want it to be. And if we right click on this and click insert keyframes, we can see that we inserted a little keyframe right here. And I'm actually going to make this 300 frames. And if we go over here to 300 and go to 301 and put this at 360 and then insert a keyframe, we should see that we now have our thingy rolling, which is what we want. Now for the Earth, basically the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to do the exact same thing. Find the one that. Okay, so it's Z. Okay, so basically we're going to do the exact same thing by on frame 0, right clicking, insert free keyframes, and then 301, 360, then insert keyframes, and then do the exact same thing here. Make sure you're on frame 0. Insert keyframes. Oops. 360. Oops. Insert keyframes. Now we should see that we have both those turning. Okay, and now we're gonna make sure we don't need our atmosphere to turn because it is you don't have any detail on it, so we don't need that to turn. So basically now if you see it now, I apologize, there's a vacuum in my background for some reason. Oof. Alright, so if we look at the animation, right, it's pretty choppy. The way we're gonna fix that, and the reason I changed it to 300 frames is because I want a 10-second animation, but I also want it to be smooth. So the way we're gonna fix that is we go into our little render settings tab, and our frame rate, and we put it on 30, and we click play. We now see that it is a lot smoother in our thing, which is what we want. We want it to be a lot smoother. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I'm actually going to see if this makes a difference, and if it does, then we'll see. All right, it's already on that. Never mind. So now we have our spinny thing. That's basically the animation. Anything else that I might want to do? No, not really. Alright, so now you have this cool spinning Earth animation in Blender, Eevee. That's nice. So if you for some reason wanted to do this in cycles, here's what it looked like in cycles. Yeah, not very good. So I'd recommend rendering this animation in Eevee. My experience, it only took about 15 to 20 minutes in Eevee rendering it. So 300 frames, 15-20 minutes. Just give it some time, it'll render out. Also render settings, how you want to render it. Obviously make sure your frame rate is at 30 FPS. File format, make sure it's on FFmpeg. Encoding, put it on in container, put it on MPEG not AVI, MPEG 4. That'll render as an MP4, and it should be only like 2 megabytes, I think. Yeah, 2 megabytes. So it's not that big of a file. Hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial. Hopefully you learned something from it. If you did, make sure to hit the like button and comment. I really appreciate you guys commenting on my videos and stuff. It makes me feel happy and stuff. So anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. My name is Viz. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.